to our channel. My name is Lee and it's my beautiful wife Emma, and we are your fplMr&Mrs. My wife and I have very different ideas of how to build an FPL team. We're looking at our drafts very shortly, but after a bit of pre-season, some of this might change.
We've always had a little bit of friendly rivalry, which we're going to take to the next level. So after the first game week review, the person with the lowest score will have to do a forfeit. So for the first game week, the forfeit will be the classic pie in the face. So if you would like to see my husband get creamed in the face, then please subscribe and like.
Let's have a look at our first draft.
So we're going to go to our goalkeepers first. So the pick of the bunch is obviously going to be Alisson from Liverpool, but 5.5 I want to be spending a lot less on my goalkeeper. So my pick is Bryson Sanchez at 4.5. Though they haven't got the best first fixture with Man United, but after that their next 8 game weeks are pretty easy going. So if you look at his stats from last season, 11 clean sheets, not too bad at all in 42 games. And the other pick that we're looking at, 0.5 more, would be Chelsea's Mendy, who has a lot better fixtures.
My only concern with Mendy is I know he has got good fixtures, but they've lost Rudiger, they've lost Christensen, and I do think that although he has got good fixtures, he's probably lost a lot of stability in that defence. I've actually gone Meslier with a sort of backup class and as just a backup 4.0 goalkeeper, so I know that at least one of them plays. Now I know Leeds let in a lot of goals last year. I think it was like 79 goals, but they've got Rasmus Christensen, who's an absolutely amazing defender. So I'm hoping under Jesse Marsch that they should sort of clean up their act and get a few more save points and a few more clean sheets.
See, I've always liked Meslier, but I think last season he did let it go a little bit, and with Sanchez being on the same price as 4.5, and considering his clean sheets and stats from last season, I've got to stick with Bryson Sanchez.
Fair enough. So let's move on to our defence. Now we've both got one Chelsea player, one City player, one Liverpool player, and a Spurs player, and then a sort of a bench fodder. But they're all different, which is quite interesting. So let's go Liverpool first, because I don't think any team should not have Trent Alexander-Arnold at 7.5. He's the most consistent player. He's scored highest for the defence last season and probably many seasons before that. I don't see how you can't go without Trent.
Yeah, I do think, it's very, very difficult, but Robinson, especially towards the end of the season, was on par with Trent, and just that 0.5 less, it gives me more room to get others in that I wanted to kind of upgrade, such as Cancelo. But yeah, I do understand Trent will be a big risk, and there could be a lot, but it's good to have differentials anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you touched on Cancelo there. Yeah, I've had to go Laporte because I wanted to spend money elsewhere in the team, and to do that, I had to downgrade from Cancelo to Laporte. I do actually think that Cancelo may not be the same asset as he was last season.
Like I said, 11 assists last season for Cancelo. He's absolutely phenomenal. He was one of the first on my team. And Laporte, he is brilliant, especially for 1 million less. But I think you've got to have Cancelo in your team.
Yeah, so it depends on Cucurella. If Cucurella signs, then I think his time will be shared with Cucurella, and also it might push him onto the right hand side. And as a right wing back, Cancelo hasn't got the same attacking threat as he has a left wing back. But we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I think you've also got to consider Pep Roulette. Which is always an issue, but I do think Cancelo is consistent, and he played him consistently throughout last season. So if we go on to Reece James, so you decided to bring in Chilwell instead. So tell me why.
Yeah, I like Reece James. Don't get me wrong, but I found if you look at his stats, he was one of those players where he was completely 15, 18 points or 1 or 2. He was one end of the scale or the other, which is if you had him at the right times, he was a brilliant asset. If you had the wrong times, he was just a waste of money. Chilwell only played a very small amount of games. I do understand that, but his points per game was unbelievable. the other concern with I have with Reece James over Chilwell is the fact that if they try to rest him to protect him, they started playing him at left centre back. Now, if they continue that way, he isn't going to get the attacking returns he does from a left wing back.
Yeah, I do see what you're saying there, but I think Reece James was absolutely phenomenal when he played. I do understand what you're saying about the inconsistency, but I do think that was related to the injury. Both of them were high injury prone, and that's always going to be a risk. But hopefully, they've had enough rest and focus on those injuries. So I think you'll see if he is back to full fitness, I think you'll see that he'll be more consistent through the season.
Wait and see. Well, our Spurs asset. Now, I've got Perisic, and you've gone Reguilón.
Yeah.
Now, I have a big issue with Reguilón. I'll be honest,
Yeah.
because as far as I can see, Conte, for a start, doesn't like Reguilón. He seems to prefer Sessegnon, and Perisic has been brought in to replace him. So the stats for Perisic are unbelievable. He has been an absolute star in Serie A. Let's have a look at it. In 21-22, he played 35 matches, scored 8 goals and 7 assists. The year before, 32 matches, 4 goals, 4 assists. He's played left wing back, he's played left wing, he's played as a main striker. He can pretty much play anywhere. Granted, he's 33, so he's not going to get all the game time. But I think he's probably playing 60, 70 minutes most matches. And then I look at yours and I see Reguilón, who now I think is third choice for Conte.
I think that he's going to switch between Pulisic and Reguilón, but especially as Pulisic needs a lot of time to gel with the team, to find his position, and like you said, due to his age, how much is he going to play him, especially at the beginning of the season? And where we've got a few others, or I've got a few others in the team that have come from different leagues, then how many do you want that risk of?
That's fair enough. Okay, I'll see your point, but I think you would probably be better off assessing on this. I think he's probably ahead of Reguilón.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right, we've got one other sort of bench fodder on both of our teams there.
Yeah.
I've gone Tomiyasu. Now I think certain points of the season I can probably play him because Arsenal have got a good run of fixtures early doors, and Tomiyasu with a bit of a possible attacking return at 4.5 to sit on the bench and come in when I need him, I think is a great asset to have sitting there.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice. I've just gone for I've just put a cheapy 4.million in there with Tompkins, but I think I'm going to look at that and possibly change to kind of see that it's just my bench.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of possibilities that you might want to have a look at some point. Nico Williams, if he goes to Forest from Liverpool, he could be he's a very good player and he could get quite a good bit of game time there. And Nathan Patterson of Everton, it looks like he's being slowly integrated in to take over from Seamus Coleman, in which case, although he may not be immediate, he may be someone to look at further down the line throughout the season.
Right, so now we're going to go on to our midfield, in which we both have put in Salah and Diaz. Well, Salah, I think he's pretty much number one on most people's FPL. Even at 13, I mean, you couldn't get much more consistent than Salah, really.
No, I think he was one of the first names on everyone's team sheet, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. I think not having him, it would just be too detrimental. So Diaz, God, he had a phenomenal end of the season, didn't he?
Yeah, he was finally in January.
Yeah.
He hit the ground running. A lot of people come into the league and they struggle, and he didn't. And I think we both said at the end of the last season, he's in before we even contemplated even finishing. He's in this season.
Yeah. So I then went for Maddison, who is 8 million. I mean, he had a little bit of a dip at the in last season, but he was brilliant. 12 goals, 11 assists, 5 clean sheets. I was toying between Maddison and Bowen. Again, Bowen had a phenomenal season at 0.5 million more. So those were the two that I was on for next.
Yeah, you got some good players at 8 million and 8.5, haven't you? I think Bowen's not the best start of the season, so that was already out for me. But you've also got Saka, you've got Kulusevski, got some good players at 8 million. And I suppose, although I'm not overly keen on Maddison personally, it does mean that having another 8 million midfielder in there, if suddenly Saka starts going wild or because Kulusevski does really well, you've got a very easy way to change across to them. I've gone Martinelli instead of Saka. I wanted an Arsenal midfielder in there. Saka obviously costing me 2 million more, so I've kind of spent that money elsewhere. I also think Martinelli this season, with Jesus playing up front, could increase his output dramatically.
Yeah, I do. I think he's a brilliant player, but you do have that little bit of a risk of game time of last season. Is he going to start? How many minutes is he going to play?
Yeah, well, with the 5 sub situation,
Yeah,
I do think even when he doesn't start, he's going to get some game time at the end of each game.
yeah, very valid point for that change. Absolutely.
Okay, well, so let's do the last couple of my team here, which we've got Andreas Pereira and Neto. Now, both of those are interesting ones. Pereira is on the verge, or by the time you listen, it might have already gone, of signing for Fulham. Now, at United, he was really a non-asset. He was never going to get in the team, and he was going to get a very small amount of minutes. Hence the reason he had a 4.5 price tag. Going to Fulham and replacing Carvalho is huge. He is going to have so many more minutes, and he's going to be playing balls into Mitrovic, and I think he has got a great chance of making some good FPL points. At the moment, he can sit on the bench, and I can see what's going on, and then moving forward, he could be coming and making some good points later on in the season. Also, unfortunately, Fulham's opening games aren't great, so he can just sit there, get used to getting integrated into the team, and then later in the season, he can score some points. And then Neto. Now, Neto is the hot topic on the whole of FPL at the moment. I think everyone is talking about Neto, and if you looked at last year's stats, you'd be wondering why. And that's because he's only played 13 games because of injury. At 5.5 million, trying to find another player at 5.5 or similar with the quality of Neto. For example, when you say his 2021 season, he played 31 games, scoring 5 goals and 6 assists. That for a 5.5 million midfielder is great. It's great value.
Yeah, absolutely. The last two for me that I've gone clean, obviously, I wanted quite cheap midfielders to alternate from bench depending on fixtures. So I've gone with Douglas Luiz from Aston Villa and Martinho from Wolves. So both obviously have their pros and cons, but for the price that they are, they've both scored a couple of goals last season, both assisted a few. And quite high on clean sheets just to get those additional points.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many minutes players like Douglas Luiz are going to get. I mean, at 5 million, it's trying to find someone else that you can put in it instead could be quite difficult.
Yeah, so I've also been looking at Rice for that of toying up of that risk. He's again on par with the same value and same kind of consistency.
I suppose Declan Rice, at least you're guaranteed 2 points, but he's not going to get huge amounts of attacking returns. But it's still 5 million, isn't he?
Yeah, and it's one that you can alternate from the bench. So the one player that I wanted to speak about in midfield is Christian Eriksen. So I think this is going to be very interesting on where he goes. He could change pretty much my whole midfield. If he stays at Brentford or if he goes to Man United, it's really up in the air at the moment. But that's something that I've got to keep a close eye on.
Yeah, I mean, for Brentford, he was always in my team. We said it last season, there's like Diaz. Diaz is in my team, and I said if Christian Eriksen stays at Brentford, he's in my team. For United, I think he's less of a good asset. I mean, he's still got potential, but for me, he's a watch rather than a lock.
And I think there's so many things that goes with that if he goes to United. What's going on with Ronaldo, and so many different variables.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both our front lines make for interesting viewing. We've both gone Jesus. We've both gone for a premium, but different premiums, and we've got a sort of cheaper bench fodder. I've got Undav, which I'll go into in a bit more detail in a minute, and you've gone for Greenwood, literally a a 4.5 bench fodder. So I think we should start with Jesus. Now, we've both gone Jesus. For me, the second they said he was thinking of going to Arsenal, I was like, what price is he coming in at? What price is he going to come in at? If he's 9 or less, he's in my team. So happy he was at 8 million. It was definitely like one of those names that's like he's going in.
Yeah, I was quite surprised he was 8 million. And with the different midfielders and different options we've got of playmaking, then that's going to be phenomenal. My only worry there is obviously that taking time to gel with the team, and also with City he didn't get much game time, so he's got to get used to that. He's got to get his confidence back, and yeah, lots of things. So it might take a bit of time. Having him straight away is that risk, but then again, is he going to hit the ground running like Diaz did for Liverpool? And is his value going to then increase quite quickly?
That's a good possibility. I mean, the thing with Jesus was because he did get limited game time. He had to come on as like a super sub on bits and pieces. But he looked like he was going to be the next Aguero, didn't he?
He did.
And I think he's still got that potential. And if he's got consistent number one at playing at Arsenal, playing their number 9 position, I think he's got a great chance of making some good points this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, then that brings us to a different dilemma. So I've gone for Kane.
Yeah, I've gone Haaland. I mean, I can see Kane. I can absolutely see your side of things because he's proven.
Yeah, exactly. Haaland is probably the most talked about player for this season, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, if he can bring 80% of what he did in the Bundesliga, and we get this, or even close to that, then he will be a phenomenal asset.
But it's just that difference. I mean, how different are these two leagues? And it's just so much of a change, especially to have him from day dot.
I do understand. There might be a little bit of FOMO in my eyes, but my problem is you look at certain players and you wonder, will they fit in the Premier League? And he's powerful, he's tall, he's fast. He's literally got every attribute that should work in the Premier League. I do see the Kane situation. I've put Haaland in, swapped it for Kane, swapped it back for Haaland, swapped it for Kane, and stuck on Haaland at the moment. That doesn't mean it's going to be Haaland on day one. It's one of those ones where you either go safe with Kane or FOMO with Haaland.
I do see where you're coming from, and I've tempted to get Haaland in, but where I really want Jesus, I think having two that are unproven is too much of a risk for me. And Kane, obviously, it wasn't his season last season, yet he still scored 17 and assisted 11, even though he had that dry patch in the middle. But that's still really, really good stats for a bad season.
Well, we've got one more player each to talk about. Yours is Greenwood, which I don't think is much to talk about, really, is there?
Not really. I mean, he's most people's. Well, not most people. It's a quite common 5.5 for on the bench.
4.5.
4.5. What did I say? 5.5.
Yeah, it's definitely not worth that.
No.
Definitely not worth that. Yeah, so you got a bit of bench. Now, this is why I couldn't get Cancelo had to report for 1 million difference. I've gone Undav. Now, Undav is another talked about player. Brighton bought him and loaned him back to the parent club. He, in the Belgian Pro League last season, played 39 games, scored 26 goals and 12 assists. Brighton haven't got that player that can put the ball in the back of the net. They got Welbeck and Mopay. Welbeck, for a start, he wasn't great anywhere he's gone. He's not a goal scorer. He's an occasional goal scorer. And Mopay has a massive attitude problem as far as I'm concerned. Although that's saying that I've had it out of my fantasy teams over the years, but this player looks like the person that's going to put the ball in the back of the net. Now, I'm quite happy to sit him on my bench, see how he does, and then play him if necessary. The other thing I've got, because I think he could blow up this season at 5.5, which is dirt cheap. If I don't buy him now and he blows up in the first week and does really well and he's price starts to rise early doors, it's trying to get him back in. If you've got a 4.5 million Greenwood on the bench, you cannot get to him without doing two changes. I'm happier sitting with him on the bench. If he does nothing, if he after 6-7 games he's done nothing, and doesn't look like he's doing anything, the eye test isn't showing me anything, I can downgrade him and upgrade elsewhere. But if he does hit the ground running and his stats go that way, if I haven't got him, I can end up with a real issue trying to get him in.
Yeah, I do see where you come from there. So let's look at how our teams would line up for game week 1.
Two fairly solid teams that over the next few weeks we can both improve on.
Thank you for watching our video. Hope you enjoyed it.
Join us next week and please comment with different forfeit ideas and please keep it clean and subscribe and like to follow our journey.
We have been your FPL Mr. and Mrs. See you next week.